Hey guys, thanks for tuning into my station. My name's Max. I appreciate you guys for being here. Have kind of a fun video today. Today is my dad's 82nd birthday, and I thought it'd be fun to do a little lighthearted video on financial advice I learned from my dad. Some of it involves options, and you guys might be interested in, but thought it'd be interesting. I think I mentioned a time or two, I was lucky to have received really good financial advice growing up from my mom and dad, and they were also pretty influential in a lot of areas. But today, since it's my dad's birthday, and since I have kind of a finance focused channel, I wanted to talk about the life lessons I learned from him. One of them is options based. Of course, he taught me all the basic stuff, like you can do anything you set your mind to. If something's worth doing, it's worth doing right. All that stuff is great. He also gave me appreciation of college football, good music, good friends, Mexican food, etc. As far as his financial lessons, though, here's dad in a nutshell. Pay cash when you're able. Be your own boss if you are able. Don't take the extended warranty, on consumer products. Your home's your best investment. It's better to save $1 million than to make $1 million. And there's an option-based one. A short put is the same thing as a covered call. Even if you don't have any stock, you just have the put. It is the same exact thing. All right. Well, I'll save the option stuff till the end for the option guys, but let's just talk about the basic stuff. Pay cash where you're able. Okay, cash is king, right? So, he always tell me, buy a car that's a year or two old or 3 or 4 years old, whatever you got to do to save a little bit of money. Even if it's just 6 months old, as soon as it comes off the showroom lot, it's worth a lot. You can get a lot better deal on it. When I was younger, I would see, when I was 5th, 6th grade, I'd see somebody with a fancy car and I'd ask Dad why we didn't have one like that or something. And he would say that, hey, that car's most likely leased, and he'd explain to me how car leases work. When we grew up in Oklahoma in the 70s, we had a gigantic boom bust oil economy. All right. I remember when Iran took the hostages in the late 70s, we had an oil boom, in Oklahoma, and rented Mercedes showed up all over town. People got planes, helicopters. It was a fun time to grow up. Then by 81, the country and Oklahoma was back in the bust cycle again. Car dealerships came, repossessed all the Mercedes. There's a ton of helicopters for sale. We had an older Mercedes, but it was paid for. So it was two-tone red and white, but it was paid for. Work for yourself when possible. He always was a big believer in owning your own business if possible. It's not practical for some people in some professions, of course, but he liked he always impressed upon me the independence you could have if no one could fire you and you were your own boss. All right. So extended warranties are sucker bets. I agree with him on this one, but he explained the concept of self-insurance to me. So he explained what insurance companies, how they set their rates, and it's like playing, roulette against a casino. They're always going to win. Some people say it's bad advice. You actually should take these extended warranties. And I think it depends. And I think this is what Dad used to say also. It depends if you can afford to self-insure. So he used to say, ask yourself this, if whatever this is breaks, can I afford to get a new one? If you can't, then yeah, you might want to think about taking the insurance. But if you could easily afford to buy a new one of whatever it is, in the case that it breaks, Dad would always just keep the money and he would tell himself all the years that he turned down the extended warranty, he made all that extra money that occasionally when you do have to fix something, it's no big deal. Your home is your best investment. Now, I know this is basic. Everyone says this, but what he used to say is not only is the tax deduction essential, but when you consider your home is also a roof over your head, and you would have to pay rent to live somewhere else. Everyone has to live somewhere. So you might as well have a home because you also get a tax deduction, and it can be a nice investment. This was our first home that we bought when Dad got his first job. and it was, I think, $25,000. It was a brand new home in the suburbs. There wasn't a tree on this lot. It was all sod. I mean, we were one of the probably the first 10 homes in the subdivision. But you could see, had we kept it, they sold it a long time ago. They should have kept it. Look at that, 10x. Not bad for 45 years. Also in Oklahoma, if you own your own home, it cannot be attached in a lawsuit. Of course, a man's home is his castle. In Oklahoma, it particularly is. You know, if you don't have a mortgage on it, you don't owe anyone any money on it, no one can take it from you. Check with your own advisor for the rules in your state. That could have changed in the freaking last 20 years also. A lot of stuff could have changed in the last 20 years. So check this all with your own planner. There's Dad when he was about 10 years older than me. He was about 65 there. But okay, here's another. So here's one. He used to always say it's better to save $1 million than make $1 million. All right. And I used to argue with them about it because I couldn't imagine anything being better than making $1 million. I mean, making $1 million, because this was also back, 40, 50 years ago. But you say if no other reason because of taxes. 40, 50 years ago, I didn't pay taxes, so I didn't have that concept in my mind. But for no other reason, of course, it's better if you have a choice to save $1 million rather than make $1 million. Of course, he told me try to do both, but if you had to choose one, go for the savings. All right, the options. Okay, I remember the day he used to do covered calls. His broker and him used to do covered calls, or he used to do covered calls. His broker actually got my grandfather into covered calls. It was actually both of their brokers, and then Dad started doing them too. So he did them, was pretty comfortable with them and stuff. And I knew about them. We used to look at the paper and pick out ones to do. It's fun. But I remember one day he came home from work and he told me he talked to his broker, and she had said that she had explained to him, why don't you just go sell a put option? And it's the same thing as a covered call. And he had to explain it to me, and I argued with him about that too. I argue a lot. But it's literally the same thing as a covered call. You synthetically, when you sell a put, you've bought the stock. You just don't know it yet, because when you're not an option, an option, of course, is a contract. Anyway, as soon as you enter into it, you're long the stock, whether you realize it or not. Anyway, he explained to me how that worked. When I first heard about what Defiance was doing a year and a half ago now, that they were going to come out with a fund that sold a put every day to synthetically create exposure to a stock index and make an income, I knew it would work instantly. I mean, I've seen it work. My dad was the first person I thought of, and I thought about the time he told me that selling puts was the same thing as owning stock. He also taught me that only professionals make a living trading options. This was true, but it no longer is. Back in the day, you had to be a member of the stock exchange to be able to trade commission free. Not anymore. This is one of the reasons why it's the golden age of retail option trading and stock trading and everything trading is upon us right now. It's just a really good time to be a trader. I even back then I used to do spreadsheets. And I used to always cook up some kind of strategy and put it on a spreadsheet. When Dad would get home from work, I'd sit down and I'd show it to him. And I'd say, we're going to buy this one, and we're going to sell this contract, and we're going to make, market goes here, we make this much. So he would look at this stuff and say, and then he would explain to me why it wouldn't work. Because, of course, I hadn't figured the bid-ask spread. I hadn't figured commissions. And, well, that's the main thing. Those two things right there will shut you down. So once he explained that to me, but he explained you had to have a seat on the exchange. If you had a seat on the exchange, you could trade commission free. Back in the day, seats on the exchange were like $2 million. And now they're probably 200 million or more. But nowadays, everyone trades commission free, though. And that's why it's an exciting time to be an option trader. There's trades that would never worked my whole life, but I've always wanted to do, like these things I showed Dad on the spreadsheet. Always want to do them. Now they won't work. No, they won't work. Well, they do work now. They can work. Defiance is doing them every day, doing similar things, selling the daily put. The yield max strategy where they're owning synthetics and selling calls against it and call spreads is great. A lot of these funds are doing strategies that would not have been feasible years ago for a variety of reasons. It's just a great time to be an option trader. You know, another thing was I called the 87 crash. I tried to talk Dad into letting me sell my stock, but he explained to me that that I would owe about 30% to taxes. So unless the market was going to drop more than 30%, and I could time the re-entry perfect. If it was going to drop 40% and I could get back in on the day that it was at the low, yeah, I'd pick up 10%. He said, can you do that? And of course, yeah, no, of course I can't do that. No one can do that. So he wouldn't let me do it. Nowadays, we have things called put spread callers. Since we have free commissions, there's ways to deal with problems like this now if you call a crash. But I called the 87 crash. I called the 2019 crash, and I'm calling one this year, and I haven't been right yet, but I think we'll at least drop 20% between now and the end of the year. I just don't see how we don't. All right. The other, just all these things that he told me together, all these lessons together, cash is king and everything. The final analysis, the lessons he taught me is basically there's no free money. And that's the main theme of my channel is there's no free money. There's no free money, and it's a great time to be an option trader. That's pretty much all I talk about. Happy birthday, Dad. Hey, leave him a happy birthday in the comments if you want. His name's Mike. I'm sure he's going to watch this video. I'm going to send him the link right now, and I'm sure it would tickle him. All right, guys.